Hey guys, Joe here at JP Details, and today I'm going to show you how to safely deep clean Alcantara fabric. I'll be using the slightly grubby Recaro CS Sportster seats from the RS as they are due a good clean. Alcantara fabric is a slightly more delicate surface in comparison to ordinary fabric, and there are a few precautionary measures that you'll need to take in order to safely clean this specific material. The driver's side seat is the dirtiest of the two, and surprisingly enough, after being in the car for over 10 years and having covered over 70,000 miles, plus the fact they've more than likely never been deep cleaned, the before and after difference is quite remarkable. Step 1. Thoroughly vacuum the seats using a soft bristle attachment, and make sure to prise the seams to remove all hidden and trapped debris. Don't scrub away at the Alcantara material, but instead you will want to be nice and gentle. I'll mainly use the two George attachments, including the crevice tool and the soft bristle vacuuming tool, which will get the seats well enough prepared prior to cleaning. Consider this the pre-washing stage for the seat, where we would usually pre-rinse the bodywork, but instead we're pre-cleaning by vacuuming the seats. The joys of taking the seats out of the vehicle for a proper seeing to will allow you to reach all areas in a lot more detail. Like I mentioned, these seats have more than likely never been removed from the Focus, and they do have quite a build-up of mould on the inside of the bases. I've diluted the Valet Pro Enzyme Odor Eliminator product at 8:1, which is a multi-surface disinfectant and deodorizer that can be used on all interior surfaces including leather, fabric and plastic. Liberally apply the Odor Eliminator product to the entire Alcantara section on the first seat, and then begin the agitation process with a relatively soft upholstery brush shortly after. I purchased this little guy on eBay soon after establishing my business, and it's turned out to be one of those godsend tools that I've actually stuck with ever since. I can't remember the name of it, and I can't seem to find it on eBay, so I'm sorry to say that I can't provide you with a link. Not that I provide you with many links anyway. I've bought many upholstery, leather and interior brushes over the years, most of which are at least £10 a pop, and I'm pretty sure that this one was under a £5, so it was definitely money well spent. You'll have to find your own relatively soft upholstery brush to clean Alcantara materials, and when you do manage to find one, you can begin the agitation process. I do like to continue adding extra product if required to get it all nice and sudsy, which does give me a good impression that the product is working and it is going to produce an awesome finish. Take your time and treat the entire fabric sections of each seat, and make sure you do them enough justice, particularly if they are a set of Recaro CS Sportsters. There are a few additional stains on the bases of the seats, which I do think is the case with both of the front seats. I spent the time required with the brush whilst agitating the product into all of the fabric areas, because if you are anything like me, then you'll always feel the urge to do your best. Repeat the process on the second seat and the rear seats if applicable, although I've decided to keep this YouTube detailing guide focused on the front ones. There is no real concern in terms of how much product you apply, but you do need to remember that you will need to make sure that the seats are respectively dry before handing the vehicle back. I'm not too fussed about waiting several days for these seats to dry out, as the car is going to be staying at the JP Details Luxury Car Hotel for quite a bit of time. I do like to make sure that each seat does receive a decent going over, and that does generally mean that I will use quite a bit of product. The key is making sure that the product is diluted appropriately, and I wouldn't advise working in the sun. With the cleaning of the Alcantara material completed to a satisfactory standard, I'll then take a much smaller Swiss Wax detail brush and clean out the gaps and crevices. This brush will help you to get those trap sections sufficiently cleaned, which will help with the final results when the entire process is complete. Make sure to recline the seats back to enable you access to the hidden parts between the reclining back piece and the seat base. For the leather areas, I'll use the Sonax leather brush with the same product, and once again I will continue to agitate the product until it becomes nice and sudsy. Make sure all leather areas are given a good seeing to, and then wipe off the excess product with a microfiber towel. This should return all leather areas back to a factory looking matte finish, which is exactly how leather should look. Subframes, side pieces, runners, underneath the seats, the backs of the seats, and quite literally everywhere else, including the mouldy pre-tensioners, were all thoroughly cleaned using the same enzyme odor eliminator product and the Swiss Wax detail brush. Something to bear in mind with this Valet Pro enzyme product is that the longer it stays wet on the surface, and the longer the product is going to remain active for. That means that by the time the seats have dried out, the product will no longer be killing bacteria or neutralising any odours. This is the main reason as to why I like to use a fair amount of the product, which it will show in the end result. I've been using this product for quite a few years now, and I have found it to be very effective with removing all different types of nasty odours. Not that the Recaros stink, but something that the G-Technic head trainer told me recently is that the term valeting can be described as the complete removal of previous owners from the vehicle. Well, that truly is a good way of explaining the detail that I'm giving to my own vehicle, because by the time this video goes live, the only potential traces of previous occupants is underneath the rubber seals and potentially behind the dashboard or the front door cards. Now that the seats have been given the initial vacuum and thorough cleaning process, and the seats have been given a bit of time for the product to work its magic, we are now ready for the best task, which is to actually give them the deep clean. Only if you are feeling comfortable, then I would advise using a wet vac on Alcantara fabric, and I'd certainly say for you to have a go on some ordinary fabric seats first, which will give you that edge in terms of a wee bit of experience. At this point you could simply wipe the seats over with a few microfiber towels and the seats would dry out totally fine, although ideally they would need to be left in the sun or inside a heated room. You would be able to achieve a decent result without a wet vac, but the wet vac really is the key tool to get them properly clean. The key with wet vacuuming Alcantara material is to be careful with the nozzle piece and not to allow it to score or gouge into the material. The lines currently being put into the Alcantara are quite simply ones that I cannot reduce, however when the seats are complete these lines will easily wipe out. With all wet vacuuming in general, I would highly advise filling the water tank inside with hot water and don't add any additional cleaning product. You'll want to do your cleaning stage separately as shown in this video and then extract afterwards with plain and hot water. Ensure to wet vac all areas of Alcantara and fabric, and the key is to continue working the areas until the liquid coming out of the seats has turned from dirty to soapy, then soapy to clear. There was a moderate amount of dirt and grime coming out of the seats, and it was nice to see the liquid eventually turning clear. The enzyme product has certainly worked its magic, and I knew for certain that at this point the seats are going to look fantastic when finished. Admittingly, I did spend quite a while cleaning these seats and detailing the complete car for that matter, but it just goes to show that in order to do a decent job it is going to take quite a while. When the wet vac stage is complete and when you've drawn out as much of the moisture as possible, grab a fresh microfiber towel and wipe over the seats. This will help to dry them out a little further by removing the moisture from the surface. The final stage before the seats are either put back in the car or given a few days to dry. I'll take the heated blower and remove as much of the trapped water or product from the intricate areas. The heated blower does double up as a hair dryer or a seat dryer, and it will help you to initially add some heat into the seats, which will help to initiate the drying out process. The seats were then left for a few days to fully dry before being taken to my parents' house for storage. The seats are now on eBay and they have been replaced with a set of Sparco QRT fixed back buckets. I'll add the eBay link to this video's description. The next options or upgrades for the seats in terms of further detailing stages will be to protect the Alcantara fabric with G-Technic i1 Smart Fabric, protect the leather with G-Technic Leather Guard, or even protect the backs of the seats with G-Technic C6 Matte Dash. The seats came out an absolute treat, and considering they weren't exactly filthy to begin with, must make you think what difference this process can make for a heavily neglected vehicle. As always, thank you for watching. Please drop the video a like to show a bit of support, and please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. Feel free to give me a follow on Facebook and Instagram, just search JP Details, and I'll hopefully catch you in the next one.